Hello and welcome back to the theater. Our tag-in warned you not to come, but you just had to click the link anyway. Well, since we're all stuck here, inside, where time doesn't seem to exist anymore, we might as well listen to some wonderful critter musicians, shall we? This is day 3 of...
Smiling wands, painted scenes, things I almost remember. There's a song. Someone sings once upon an adventure. Closed behind a bedroom door. Finger paints on the walls and floor. Daydreams from a windowsill of nights and fairy tales. Traveler kept me safe and warm. Yasha's raging in ocean storm. Caleb waltzing there with me across my memory. Far away, long ago, glowing softly in amber, themes my heart went let go. Once upon an adventure, Ford, he saved me with a breath. Eye of jade tattooed down Beau's neck. Beth and I solved mysteries. What's in Caduceus tea? Far away, long ago, glowing softly in amber, things my heart won't let go. Once upon an adventure. There's a song Mama sings. Now I finally remember.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much, Dani Gage. Is that how you say your last name?
Yes, that is it. Yep.
Well, welcome to the show. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you.
For anyone out there, Dani Gage is a singer, a cosplayer, and a crafter of fine dice bags. I want to talk about all of it, but first off, tell me what inspired you to record this song.
Awesome. Well, one thing I love to do is I love to do song covers, and I like to make them into like Barty inspiration things. I'll post them on Twitter and stuff for fun. And one song that I just absolutely love because it's so melancholy and so haunting is the song from Anastasia, which is Once Upon a December. And so when the idea of this project was brought up, I was kind of like, I have no idea what I can contribute. And I was like, you know what? The one thing I'm really good at is rewriting lyrics. And, you know, I think that week that had been the episode where Caleb did his dome with all the memories, and Jester woke up and she had no idea what, you know, a lot of things, what was going on. She forgot memories of her past. And I was like, oh, that would be a beautiful moment to capture in song. And it just, I think I'd even seen somebody like say, doesn't this remind you of Anastasia when she's in that hall and all the ghosts are dancing around her? And so I think that's largely what inspired it. I was like, oh yeah, that's great. I love the song. I love the feeling. And there we go. Started writing.
The internet said it and you made it happen.
I
That's
made
a
it
beautiful
happen. Yeah.
You also cosplay. Not only do you do music, you also do cosplay and a bunch of other creative stuff. Holy crap. What don't you do?
I know. I mean, I joke about like being a bard in real life, but I feel like it just resonates with my soul because literally I don't have one thing that I'm good at. I just stick my fingers in all the pies.
Jack of all trades.
Yeah, it's just my life. And so cosplay is like a new thing.
Oh, it's new. How long have you been doing it?
It's so new. This is actually Jester is my first cosplay.
Are you serious?
First official. I guess technically I've done like an OC before. Like for Halloween, we dressed up as our characters.
That totally counts.
Yeah. So then I guess she'd be like my second. But yeah, this is I've always wanted to do it ever since I was in like high school. I remember following like Firefly Path. They were like a big cosplayer and they do all these beautiful fairy dresses now. But I've always wanted to cosplay, and I don't know. I don't feel like I felt can't talk fit in with like cosplayers like. And so recently I was like, you know what, screw it. I'm just going to do it. And it's been really fun. I love sewing. I love getting into character. Dressing up as Jester was like the weirdest thing ever because I looked at my face and I was like, I don't know who that is.
How long did it take you to get all that blue stuff on and off your face?
God. I want to say it took like 2 hours. And like, that's because I did all this shading and stuff to give myself like a nice contour. It didn't even show up in the pictures. It just looks like I painted myself blue. I was like, no! But apparently that's like a common thing. People are like, mood, feels, totally understand, you know. So yeah, it took about like 2 hours, I think, to get in the blue. But after that, the rest was easy. You just put the clothes on.
Yeah. Now, did you make the clothes yourself? You said you sew.
I did. I've kind of always sewn, and so because I like to make things really difficult for myself, it was like the first time I've ever drafted a pattern from scratch and everything, because like her coat's
the pattern
I
for
did.
This.
Her coat's super like asymmetrical, and I was like, I couldn't find another pattern somewhere else to like kind of alter, and so I was just like, screw it. And so I draped the pattern form that I had, and or the dress form, and then I made the pattern, and I made a muslin copy. It's like a rough draft kind of.
Okay.
And then
cheap
when I had that
something?
down, yeah, it's like it's cheap fabric that you can just do all stuff with, and so it's my first self-drafted pattern. I wanted it. It took so long. It was an awful idea, but the coat looks great.
It looks incredible. You're blowing my freaking mind right now. That's amazing. How long did? Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just saying I'm super proud of it. I mean, you're gonna ask how long it took. Is that what you're going for? I didn't keep track of the hours, but it's definitely like in the high hundreds, if not like 200 hours. Like it's been a year-long process. I think I started it around last year. But yeah, and then I did all like the hand beading. I hand beaded everything on the trim. I didn't just like buy trim. Like I said, I like to make things awful for myself.
You're a crazy person. I love it.
I was like, authenticity. So it took a long time. That's how many hours it took. A really long time.
Well, it looked incredible. I mean, you could tell how much work you put into it. I didn't know it was that much, but you could tell there was love there.
Oh yeah. I definitely love it. And it feels good to wear it to know all that hard work turned into
How
something
many
beautiful.
times have you been Jester now?
I've done like a test run before, just with like the makeup, and then this was the first time kind of like getting all the way in. I mean, there's still a couple details I'm working on.
Okay, Dish. Are you okay to talk about it?
Yeah, it's like, I mean, I still have to do like her tail. I still like have like a corset I want to work on too, because it is like a very heavy costume. It's very much like winter, and I live in Southern California, so I was sweating in my apartment just wearing it. I can't imagine wearing it out in the 100-degree weather we have right now.
It's so bad right now. I mean, again, time doesn't matter, but holy crap, I'm in the valley. It's awful.
Oh, are you really? I didn't know that. Oh my gosh. Yeah, we're like neighbors, kind of. Yeah, it's awful. Awful.
Yeah. Well, take my mind off of how hot it is by telling us about Hoop and Loom.
Oh, Hoop and Loom. It's just like a sort of business I made, and like I think it's been about 2 years now. Like I've just always been like a really creative kid my whole life. I always loved making things, and I think it's always kind of been a dream to have my own Etsy shop and just make things. And you know, it all started with I was doing like weavings. So I was like doing like wall hangings, like super trendy, you know, like macrame.
I love those. Yeah.
They're super pretty. And so I started off with that. I did actually, it's over there on that wall, but I have like a little Jester themed one that I made.
Oh, can you go get it? We'll edit it out. I would love to see it.
I'll go grab it really fast. Okay, I grabbed a little something extra because I figured, you know, why not just show off all the Critical Role stuff? Let's do it. Yeah, so I started off with wall hangings, and so this is like a little Jester one I made. But it's got like her little blue.
Yeah.
I did like a little chain inspired off of like how she like hangs her holy symbol and everything. It's just this cute little blue and pink, like my favorite colors. And then I had this hoop that I made, and it's a little hard to read, but it says, you know how people are like live, laugh, love, all that stuff? I made a learn, grow, provoke, consume. So
that's hilarious.
My
I want that in my bathroom.
And that's around when I started getting into Dungeons and Dragons, and I couldn't find a dice bag that I liked. And I'm like a huge pocket person. Like, I mean,
well, that's
girls,
the thing, right?
We love pockets. Yeah.
Yeah.
We don't get pockets in our skirts and our purses, so we want pockets. So, I made the pocketed dice bag, and it went off from there. And my shop has been growing pretty consistently for the last like year and a half, 2 years, and yeah, that's the story of Hoop and Loom.
Well, we should probably talk about music, I guess, if you have to.
Yeah.
What was it like working with Aiden?
Oh, Aiden was awesome to work with. I mean, I was super nervous coming into this. I know when I joined the Discord group, I was like, I don't belong here. I don't know what I'm doing.
No, quite the opposite.
Yeah, but everyone was so welcoming, and my only experience really in music was I did a lot of choir, and I tried to learn how to play the piano once until
you play the ukulele.
Yeah, I play the ukulele now. I started in June. Started mid-June.
Awesome.
And it's super fun. I super recommend it because it's like, and you just get to jamming. It's so fun. But working with Aiden, it was awesome because I really had no clue what I was doing. So he walked me through like all the steps I needed to do. Everyone on the Discord was super helpful. Figuring out how to set up to record.
The whole thing. I think there's a pinned post somewhere.
I'm sure there is. I looked through a lot of things to try to figure out what I was going to do. I ended up recording in my closet, which was,
That's
great
perfect.
Blankets all over the place. We had to turn off the AC because you could hear the AC running in the background.
Yep. I literally, every time I record, I have to wait for the fridge to turn off. It's the most irritating thing.
Yes. Yes. Awful. So, I mean, it was a great experience, and Aiden was amazing every time he sent me like what he was working on. It just blew my mind even more every time. I was screaming by the end of it.
An incredible musician. That guy is, yeah.
Oof. So good. So it was a pleasure and a joy to get to work with him. And I'm glad we got to do it. It was fun.
I'm glad too. I've got one more silly question for you.
Sure.
This is a big one. It's very important. If you could take one member of Vox Machina and one member of the Mighty Nine to form a band with, who would you pick and what genre of music would you play?
Oh my gosh. Wow, that's like really interesting.
Take your time. Take your time.
My thoughts are all over the place. Ooh. Okay, like first impression, thoughts on like Vox Machina. I think it would be really fun to have Vax.
I like it. Vax is actually becoming like an underrated, like he's getting a lot of picks from people.
Yeah.
It's surprising to me.
I feel like he's so edgy and like he'd totally be like the musician type.
He totally sits in the corner of like the weird high school hallway that no one goes to and just like kind of broods.
Yes.
And, like maybe has like a guitar sometimes.
He would be a broody front man and it would just be amazing. So I think to add on to that, gosh, I just think Liam O'Brien's characters are just the best. I feel like Caleb would be an awesome like songwriter. Like I feel like he would be.
You are totally right.
Beautiful stuff, you know.
Dude, yeah. I mean, the best songs come from deep pain.
You get that edgy performer from Vax, and then like beautiful lyrics from Caleb. So
I love that. Now, what are you doing? You're in the band too. You're in the band too.
I'm in the band too? Oh, absolutely. My goodness. I would probably be like the percussionist. I don't know. I could just see them being all cool, and I'm in the background like doing everything else.
It's Vax on acoustic guitar, you on cajon, and Caleb is just your manager who songwrites.
Absolutely.
I am into it. That's one of my favorite answers. That is ridiculous, and I love it.
I mean, if you're gonna build a band with Critical Role, it's gonna end up being ridiculous in some manner. You just gotta embrace it.
Can't go wrong. Well, Dani, thank you so much for joining me.
Yay,
this has been a blast. Is there anything you want to plug? I feel like your Twitter handle or anything like that?
I mean, sure. If y'all want to find me, I'm pretty much only on Twitter. I like kind of post sometimes on Instagram, but that's not really a thing. So you can find me at Dani, D-A-N-I, Yogani, Y-O-G-A-N-I.
Got it.
You had no idea how to spell that. It's because I used to be a yoga instructor, and it goes with that.
There we
Don't
go.
do that anymore. But Dani Gage, that's where you can find me, along with all the lovely other, Critical Role Twitter musicians. We'll be out there somewhere talking, collaborating.
And speaking of collaborating, here's something else.
Turn it to powder, he's spellcasting, wizarding power. Use a piece of fleece, release, program delusion for many hours. Falling asleep to memories, remembering busting enemies, mourning friends' energies, hoping my mind is not empty. How do I wanna do this? Well, kisses make no mistakes. I'm about to do these bars just like Chester did the cupcakes. Drinking the people tea when the night it grows crisp. Punch my way, my problems like a cobalt soul pugilist. Even in the ways of why your mother's light is casting luck. Listen to the bone hard batches playing Thunderstruck. Goblin a half and watch out for Renato's bolts blasting. Create a new spell, now we call that widow gasting.
I would walk through the fire with you, because you're right by my side. Yeah, you're always by my side. I would walk through the fire with you, because you're right by my side. Yeah, we are the mighty nine. Oh, 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 oh.
magic and flair, falchions and cunning. Don't see over there's a monster incoming. What's your mother's name? They wild. The wizard says a ship on fire. Utterly wrecking these wild mount thugs. Of course the monk has a big ass bag of drugs. Looking at the Carter strong, telling them what fate they have. No matter what the challenges, they always find a way to laugh. Rest inside a bubble, fall asleep next to the wizard's cat. Clearance casting healing, even though you weren't in combat. The wild mother, the stone and clay, deals for misery, your daughter pushed away. Buttons and family and angels they've slain. We'd have it no other way. Long may you reign.
I would sail anywhere with you, because you're right by my side. Yeah, you're always by my side. I would sail anywhere with you, because you're right by my side. Yeah, we are the mighty nine. I would bargain with the hag and give her everything I had just to get you back.
Not gonna lie, that sounded pretty cool.
Hello, Jake. Welcome to the stream. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me. This is awesome.
For anyone who might not know, Jake Lionheart is a rapper and beat maker who's been doing nerdcore hip-hop for the past 5 years. He recently released a D&D-focused album with major themes drawn from the world of Critical Role entitled TPK, The Poetic Calopsia.
Calopsia.
You're gonna have to help me with that one in a second.
Yeah.
But first, can you tell me a little bit about Nine Heroes?
About Nine Heroes. Well, you gave us a deadline of about like a month to like trying to work on something.
Mm-hmm.
And in the process, I somehow made another beat tape because every beat I made I just didn't like. Well, I mean, I liked, but to me, I felt like, I don't know. It just sounded like I'm just throwing something together. And I'm like, I really want to make something different.
Yeah.
So I'm mostly like a sample-based, like, hip hop beat maker.
Mm-hmm.
And so I kind of went completely not outside my norm. I kind of wanted to do the stuff that I wish I could do with bandmates that could play the instruments better.
Yeah.
But it's just me and like the C, G, E minor chord. So I'm like,
that's all you need. That's all you need.
That's all you need is 3 chords. So I was like, well, how can I throw this C, E minor and G into a beat? And then a friend of mine actually just recently gifted me the MPK. So I'm like, well, I know how to play the chords on the keys. I can play them on like a guitar. Let's throw it into like a pot and see what kind of soup we made. And I kind of wanted like, cause every beat I was making kind of felt like focused on just one. Oddly enough, Ford. Like I feel like I might be dropping like a Ford mixtape soon because
that's
of how many.
Exciting.
Because of just how many beats I have that sound Ford-ish, or at least like Ukatoa Ford. You know,
I'm hyped on that. That'll be great.
Yeah, just because I'm like everything just sounded kind of cowboyish. So, well, who knows? I might actually do that. But then I was
stuff.
Yeah, but I was just like, I don't want to do just a Ford track. I want to do something that's like everybody. And then I really liked, recently it being called Nine Heroes, and the whole thing with the boat and everything from the show. Yeah. Spoilers, I guess, if you haven't caught up.
We're throwing away spoilers. If you're not caught up, sucks.
Okay. Yeah, and I just like that idea. And then I kind of had at the beginning of the first 16 that whole like, how do I want to do this? And, Jester, I'm going to do like Jester did the cupcakes and all that stuff. I had that kind of those bars, oddly enough, written to an Autumn Orange beat.
Love his stuff.
Yes, Autumn Orange is like the dopest. But I had that written to their beat, and I was like, well, I can use this because this is hitting everybody, and then I can just focus on the song, making it as many verses as I can about all of them. Yeah. And then so threw that together. Here's a little fun fact, though. I tried singing this is why I rap instead of singing. I sent it out to a couple friends actually that are going to be featuring during the video or the stream, I should say. And they were like, it's good. It's a little pitchy, but it's good. And so it was kind of like, Chase, help Chase, help. And then Chase comes in and like just saves the whole song.
With that gorgeous deep voice.
Oh my gosh, yes. I'm like, how do you do this? And so yeah, he came and saved the song, and then threw it together. And I think he does a lot more of the lifting than I do, but
I was really happy with the whole thing as
Awesome.
as a piece of work. Yeah, you guys
Cool.
did a great job. Can we talk about the poetic calypsia for a second?
Sure.
Got a lot of questions on that one, actually.
Yeah,
First off, what is calypsia? And I have no idea what that is.
I was just looking for anything that would go with TPK, but that wasn't a TPK. So it's like, what can I look for? And so I think I honestly just Googled words that start with K. To be honest with you.
I love that. So what does it mean? What does it mean?
It's kind of like a deception type of a thing. So
okay.
I wish I would. Let me know what. Might as well pull it up the way I did on Google.
We could cut all of this out. Yeah, go for it.
Okay. And the funny thing is the pronunciation, because my friend that I had narrate, he pronounced it one way, and I'm like, I never told him how to pronounce it.
Oh no.
But it's all good. I think everybody's gonna have their own way of.
It's poetic license, right?
Yeah, exactly. Okay, it is the delusion of things being more beautiful than they are.
Ooh.
So I saw that.
And with the Kenku stuff you've got going on, that kind of there's something there.
And then also, I kind of borrowed from other hip hop artists, of the past, especially I guess we can everything ties into Critical Role somehow. Logic, who's friends with Brian and everybody. He has this awesome album called I think it's The True Incredible Story, where he has this like kind of story playing on in the background through the voice actors and stuff like that, and then just has kind of like regular songs playing. Yeah. So it's kind of like this, these two guys in space are listening to his album from back in the 2000s and stuff like that. So it's like they're listening to oldies, as it were.
Right.
And so I really like that idea, and I'm like, well, how can I tell a story in between the idea of this rapping halfling and his beat making Kenku friend performing at this like shabby old tavern. And then so I threw in some skits, and then the last one is called Encore, is where the actual calypsia happens, where I show what was actually happening and like kind of like how the show really wasn't all the songs weren't important at all.
Yeah. I love that framing aspect, by the way. The way you use the skits as like the dungeon master, right. I thought it tied in so well. Now let's talk about Kenku for a second. Obviously you've never played one before, but not only in this album, but in some of your other like beat album. I don't know.
Yeah, I get beat tape. I don't.
Sure, beat tape. I like that. You've got kind of Kenku on the mind, I think.
Right.
So what is it that draws you to that race?
Well, the funny thing was like just getting into it. The funny thing is like we had this new guy at my work start, and he's totally into like TTRPGs and everything, tabletop games, and just trying to like strike a conversation with him. We started talking about it, and then I was like, oh, okay. And then he was the one who mentioned Kiri. And so I was like, okay, cool. And so then like, I went on YouTube and watched all the like fan edits and stuff like that. And I'm like, man, this is so cool. And then I think it was actually right before I saw that, just the idea of like a bird character they can play as sounded kind of cool to me. And then I found out about the mimicry, and I was like, well, this is not going to work for a bard, because how is a bard going to, they can only mimic. And then I just thought like, hold up. I make sampling hip hop beats. Kenku is a walking, talking sampler.
Is so good. It's so good.
And so then I was like, this makes perfect sense to be. And then I was telling this new guy who I was working with, and he's all like, at first he was like, mimicry, that's not going to work for a bard. And then when I told him like, well, I do sample stuff, and he's like, oh my God, dude, like, yeah, just beatboxing. And then I'm like, well, not only that, but I'm like, I guess just playing with it. Like if a Kenku hears something, then obviously they can mimic it, but why couldn't they mimic it and pitch shift it or slow it down or fast it or make it faster?
Absolutely.
And so I'm like, so that's why I'm like, the possibilities are endless. And then so that's when I just started making beats, because I'm like, well, beats are easy. I can just make a beat and say, a Kenku made this beat. And
Whoa. Hold on. Back up a second. I've made beats before. That is not easy. And the stuff you do is seriously good, man. So the fact, can we talk a little bit about that? Your inspirations for beat making?
Yeah.
What's the process like for you?
Honestly, sometimes I have a bad tendency of doing moodier stuff. So a lot of times it's like just trying to find a sample or a loop that's just not moody, because it's just like so simple just to like get stuck in my, this is E minor, I'm gonna stay in E minor, that's fun, and play something moody. But a lot of times it's listening to that and then seeing what the sample or loop makes me feel or think.
Yeah.
So you hear something with like a flute, and I think I don't think honestly until I started playing D&D, like the ideas of like flutes and stuff that's not normally hip hop sounding,
right,
or you would think this is a hip hop sample. And then I'm like, well, this would be fun. Like if you're a bard, you can technically use any kind of instrument. I'm assuming the art of mimicry is not just sound. Like why couldn't he see another bard play a C, E minor, G? And there
you go.
Mimic it, sure.
Just pay a lute player $5 to play all the chords, and you're good to go.
Yeah. That's another reason why, like in that one song I had where my halfling is playing, he's playing some chords, and it's like, oh, this person comes up, show them the chords. Kenku's got it. You show the Kenku chord, they're getting down.
I wish I was a Kenku now. It's amazing.
Yeah, and so it was just that. But it just depends on what the mood is, what attitude I'm in at that moment of making an instrumental, what the samples make me feel. The cool thing is like when you take a sample and like you just mess with it, so you slow it down, you pitch it, you speed it up, and then or you chop it up. The fun thing is when you chop it up and all of a sudden you're like, oh, this is nice. Like what can I do with this? And then you just get lost into it, and then a lot of times, like I might come up with like stories and ideas after I have this, like, okay, what emotion this is evoke from me, and what do I want to talk about? Which is kind of like how I did on TPK. That's why like some like one song I felt like was about like your lost love or something like that. So I'm like, oh, this kind of has that vibe to it. Trying to think. Oh, the other one sounds like a battle beat. So I'm like, okay, let's fight a giant. That should be fun. Let's have battle bars for a giant. And so, yeah, this kind of like...
That's my favorite off the album, by the way.
Really?
The chorus in particular just bumps,
nice.
Man.
Cool, thanks.
If you had to pick one member of Vox Machina and one member of the Mighty Nine to form a band with, who would you pick, and what type of music would you play?
Crap.
You don't have to pick the musicians.
Right. Yeah, because the easy pick would be like Scanlon.
It's kind of the ringer, but I just want to let you know you can pick anyone.
Ooh, and then okay, I think I have my Vox Machina one.
All right.
Ooh. You know what? I'm gonna have fun with this. I would pick Vax as the lead singer.
Oh, and I love that.
I'm gonna pick Caduceus. And
this would be the coolest band.
And we're gonna be like a 90s emo rock band.
Yes. Yes. Oh God.
We've got Vax as like Gerard Way on vocals. We've got me trying to figure out all the other instruments, and then we can just have like Caduceus either learn something or play the bone flute for fun.
Just whenever it's getting too introspective and he just comes in.
Yep. That's what it would be.
Oh, that might be the best answer I've heard so far.
Yeah, thanks.
Brilliant.
Yeah. I'm like, let's just have fun. I don't want to go with the obvious. I mean, although like being a band with Scanlan would be pretty freaking awesome.
I mean, yeah, it's hard to pass up. It's hard to pass up.
Grog would be fun too, because Grog could just throw him on the drums and just have him just stomp on the drums.
Yeah.
That would be fun.
I feel like Vox Machina as a whole is just like, they would make a great band. Like, I feel like they would just kind of make it work.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for doing this. I really appreciate your time.
Thanks for inviting me.
I have to go.
Welcome to the stream, Critical Scroll. It is a pleasure to have you. In case you haven't heard, Critical Scroll is a writer and a voice actor who's been with the Cantata Pansophical since our very first project and is now working on a rewrite of the Dear Evan Hansen musical. You've been working on that for a while now, and I want to talk about it. But first, tell me about this Yasha piece.
Oh, the Yasha piece. Okay.
Yeah.
So the Yasha piece, and I really wish I could remember because I knew we were going to have this conversation, not about this specifically, but I figured I should remember where this came from. And I can't remember. It's one of those like the cart and the horse things. Like, I don't remember which came first, but I know the idea. Basically, I've been getting, I grew up watching pro wrestling like a lot of people do. Probably got out of it. I'm in my 30s now. I probably got out of it when I was, like a teenager, just about there. So it's been a while. But something came up and I was like, oh yeah, I remember. And I've been binging pro wrestling stuff on YouTube, which I didn't realize now, like the WWF, WWE, they're called now, has everything up online. Like you can watch pay-per-view matches from the past, all that stuff.
Oh, that's great.
But one of the things that I love about that I was watching that I love about pro wrestling is the idea of like what they call a pop now, or I guess it's always been called that, which is the reaction when something happens or when somebody comes out.
Okay.
And, and the pop for I was watching this match called a Royal Rumble, which is like 30 people just come out one after the other, and you just get these different reactions. And the thing that really amazed me, as an adult, was how much like the audience is tuned into like these little sound bites. Like it's a split second of sound, and the audience just goes crazy, right? So, for instance, one of my favorite wrestlers growing up was the Undertaker, and it's just a bell toll, like a bell tolls, and the crowd goes crazy, right? There's another guy called Edge, who would have this little thing before his theme music's changed over the years, but one of the things that stays consistent is this female voice that just quietly says, "You think you know me," and then his music kicks on, but people go crazy. And that song, when I was watching the Critical Role episode and Yasha said, "I have to go," during the dream sequence, it immediately kicked into my head of like, oh, that sounds like the opening to one of those songs.
Right.
Then, next process was, wouldn't it be fun to have like Yasha have like a pro wrestling theme, like a Titantron, like big video thing, like she was walking into the ring? Because that's also kind of, I don't want to give too many spoilers, but generally that was one of the things that I remembered from pro wrestling too, was that, when something changed for a character, their music would change. So in my head, I was like, oh yeah, this is kind of like her new theme song for, if she were a pro wrestler, but that's
Absolutely.
kind of the idea.
Now, you've been working on this Dear Evan Hansen project for a while. Can you tell us a bit about how that started?
Sure. Yeah. So this is going to sound worse than it is up front, but I've been working on this now for over 3 years, and I realized, I was actually thinking about the other day, I realized that I started this before the Hamilton project actually came out, and when I say that, I mean, I was listening. Obviously, we're working on the idea of Hamilton. It might have been around the time I sent my audition in for Beauregard. Right. But I got that idea of like, oh, well, you're just kind of thinking like, well, if they do Hamilton, what would be the next thing? And Dear Evan Hansen, obviously,
you're 5 steps ahead of me, man.
It's like, this is not being ahead. This is just having a brain that is overactive. These are like nighttime shower thought kind of things. But it just went, oh, well, Dear Evan Hansen's the next, won the Tony for Best Musical next year. So wouldn't it just make sense to go down that line? And then I hadn't seen the show, Dear Evan Hansen, yet. But once I did, watching it, and the whole idea of Evan and the way the show looks visually, and this theme of like somebody who's kind of an outsider trying to find a family in a certain way, and granted, the way he does it in the show is completely not the way you want to do that, but just so many of the themes of the songs in the show work around the themes of like wanting to belong or a found family. And I kind of thought, well, that fits Terry very well. And then we actually were able to workshop the script within the Discord channel. Scott and I believe it was Megan, who both are actually in the show, playing the parts that they helped workshop, among others.
Wonderful.
But it was because it was one of, like, I had so little confidence in what I was writing because I am not a writer. I was asking anybody I could, like, hey, does this look like absolute garbage? Because I kind of want to know before. But that really helped. I was able to basically do a full run through of all the speaking parts, all the not so much the songs, but to at least get feedback on the lyrics and all that. So with all that, the show has been through probably about 4 pure drafts, like, complete from the first time I wrote it, after we did what I've been calling the table read, to the first time. So the voice cast of the actual show has actually, most of them have done 2 full versions of the entire show. So we did one version, went, all right, that stuff didn't work, or that's kind of weird, or maybe we need to move that around, and then we have the version that we have now. Also, but it's been great to watch that happen too. While it's not the process I would recommend because of the amount of time. So that's how we got to 3 years, right? Doing 4 versions, and then other things have happened. Like I've had a child during that time, and as we've been doing this over this time, it's been amazing to watch what everyone has gone through, because it's an international group, and if you think about what's been going on over the 3 years, not just in America but in other places. It seems like every time something happened, I was going like, oh, right. So for instance, our drummer for the project and one of our ensemble members who plays a few different parts both live in Australia. And there was a point where their country was on fire while we were doing this. We had our Scanlan was in the Philippines when a volcano erupted. We were like, are you okay?
Yeah.
And that's not to mention, we've had people, and I won't say who, but we had, somebody, I believe their boyfriend got hit by a bus or a vehicle of some kind. Somebody had to bury their parents during the course of this. And it was just like realizing, and that's one of the other things I think you don't really take into account for when you're kind of like helming a ship, so to speak, is like, it's one thing like you're just part of a project and you see something bad happen and you're like, people reach out and all that, and you kind of feel that, but like when you're in charge of it, you really feel like, oh, I gotta like make sure these people are okay to the best of my ability. I mean, obviously we don't have unlimited resources and things like that, but it's been very impressive to watch like the collective work that people have put in and their persistence with a lot of this stuff.
So we can't say too much because nothing's done yet, but I know people every now and then will throw a comment saying, hey, what's the situation with this? Can you give us a general kind of status update on where you guys are?
Yeah. So actually, as of the night of writing this or recording this, everything, we are in the can with everything. We have all the voice, all the music, everything is in the computer. It's been rendered out, and now we're just at the point of tweaking it, making sure it's ready to, not going to blow out anybody's car speakers or anything when we put it out, or no crazy grating noises or anything like that. But yeah, everybody's recording at this point is done. I think we have like maybe 1 or 2 verses we want to touch up there on one song, but it's effectively it's in the can now.
Awesome. Well, I'm looking forward to helping you with that.
Yes, I'm looking forward to being helped. Yeah, I've already learned how to mix and how to render. I didn't need to learn how to master.
One very silly question for you to end things off. If you could pick one member of Vox Machina and one member of the Mighty Nine to form a band with, who would you pick and what genre of music would you play?
Not Caduceus. That sound.
Believe it or not, he has been picked before.
Oh man, that sound that Taliesin made for that flute is one of the worst things. Like it's great, but it's terrible. Let's see, a band. So I feel like the obvious answer for that for the Mighty Nine, or for Vox Machina is probably Scanlan, because he is music. Yeah, it feels like he would be able to, pretty much do whatever you want. So because of that, I think I'm going to go a little bit different way, and I'm going to go with Percy, and I'm going to go with Mr. Light Show from the previous episode. I'll go with Caleb, because I think now, and this wouldn't be traditional, those two could probably pull off a great EDM show, like between the two of them.
Yeah.
It would be the equivalent of kind of like a press a button and go. But what they could do on the setup, I think would be great.
I love that. They're not even doing any of the music. It's all you. They're just making you look amazing.
Yeah. Well, they're setting up. I'm assuming we're in their world. So, like, if you want somebody to kind of do the equivalent of like creating the landscape for digital music, it's got to be, it's got to be them. Like, Percy might just have it on like a Rube Goldberg machine, kind of like one of those old player pianos at a certain point.
Yes.
But if you want technology-based music, I think those two are your best bets.
That's a great pitch. I love that. Well, thank you so much for joining me, Critical Scroll. Is there anything you want to plug before we shove off?
Oh yeah, Critical Scroll, on Twitter. I'm also on Instagram, although I'm mostly using that to recruit artists right now as the same handle. But I'll be around the channel and everything. So if there is more to promote, I'm sure it will be attached to the Dear Evan Hansen album. But that's obviously the big project right now.
I got your back. We'll talk.
Yeah.
Okay. I just want to take a quick moment and tell you a little bit about Amnesty International. Amnesty International takes on human rights issues around the world. It's also a favorite charity of Ashley Johnson, who you might remember from roles like Peter Shepard in Jumanji, the animated series, Girl in Audience from Kids Incorporated, and Patterson from NBC's Blind Spot. She's also occasionally guest starred on Critical Role, a company who launched a brand new charity foundation right after we finished setting up all of our fundraiser stuff. And if endorsements from Ashley and myself aren't enough, I'll be sending out digital downloads of all the music from this weekend, as well as a bonus track from yours truly, to all our donors as a thank you. So if you've been enjoying this weekend of Critical Role music, please consider donating to our charity fundraiser. Just follow the link in the description. The Critical Concert. Fictional stories, real change. Hello, the Rise Undaunted. Welcome to the stream. Thank you so much for joining me.
You're welcome.
For those who may not know, the Rise Undaunted has been creating Mighty Nine-inspired orchestral pieces for years. Can you start us off by telling us a little bit about this piece?
Yeah, so the one that we're doing right here was actually inspired by one of my new favorite spells in D&D. I recently had a character, and that was like kind of his calling card, I guess you could say. And
This
so I
is
was like,
Circle of Power?
Yep, Circle
So
of Power.
tell us what does this spell do?
Oh shoot! Again, test my knowledge. So it's everybody within 30 feet of you gets advantage on saving throws, and then if it's like the whole like monk thing, where if you were to succeed and take half damage, you take no damage.
Ooh, that's dope as hell. What class gets that?
I think it's
What are you playing?
Paladin. I was playing a really just like mix of characters, and like we kind of homebrewed a little bit in my in the campaign that I was playing, because it was actually a descendant of a previous campaign, and so I was playing a druid, but the DM graciously let me have the paladin spell.
Oh, that's awesome. So this piece gave me major movie theme vibes when I was listening to it. Were you inspired at all by other film or TV composers?
Always. As far as like specifics, I have no idea.
Are there any that you particularly enjoy?
Well, I mean, I just watched Tenet a little while ago, and
Okay.
so oh gosh, what is his name? Goran. Oh man,
Ludwig Göransson. He's
There
the
we
guy
go,
who did
yeah.
all the Childish Gambino stuff.
Oh shoot, yeah, there we go. Yeah,
He
so
did Black Panther. He did Community. Super talented guy.
Yeah. So I've been digging him. I feel like it's a bit of a cliche to say Hans Zimmer at this point, but he's great.
Nothing wrong with that. Yeah. Now you mentioned that you played D&D before you got into Critical Role. Have you noticed that your play style has changed at all since starting to pick up and watch Critical Role?
Yes. So I mostly DM.
Oh, okay.
And so naturally my patron saint has become Matt. But I mean, like there's just a lot of subtle things that he does that I'm just like, that's really nice. And so I'm always trying to, get a little bit better at doing that and making the game enjoyable for my players.
Has there been any moment where you have been particularly proud of a decision you've made as a DM? It's like, oh, I nailed that one.
Yes, actually.
Tell
Oh
us.
man. All right, how do we condense this into not 3 hours? So I was playing a campaign or DMing a campaign where the majority of my players were actually family members.
Nice.
They were like brothers and sisters, and then like the dad and like cousins and stuff like that. And so they were basically trying to at one point reclaim kind of like their homeland city, castle, citadel type thing. And there were like these kind of like obelisks of power, I guess you could say, that were kind of like helping the baddies.
Okay.
And so the way that they kind of knew about these things, and I had been kind of like leaving breadcrumbs, for a lot of the campaign to kind of like lead up to like, okay, you got to break these things in order to save the city and get it back and beat the bad guys. And it wasn't until like the night before the session, I was like, I have no idea how they're actually going to break these things. Like, are they going to find like some magical bombs or something like that? Or like, are they going to like punch it real hard, The way that I did it was, it was an act of, like pure. Okay, it sounds so cheesy now that I think about it. But like an act of pure love and like repentance, I guess you could say, is like, so like something that they changed because of love. And so like I kind of, like introduced that concept to the players, and they were able to go around one by one, and each one of the players had this moment where they were able to kind of like witness that thing and break these obelisks. And so, yeah, I thought that was kind of fun.
That's fantastic. You're rather than just for the min maxers just breaking shit. You're forcing
hit
them
it
to
a
have
million
character
times
moments.
and it's gonna break.
But no, I mean it's all about the characters, right?
Yeah, for sure, absolutely.
That's awesome. I think about limitations sometimes can drive creativity. And I'm curious, as a composer, if you had to pick only 3 instruments to work with for the rest of your life, you can only compose with these 3 instruments, what would you pick?
Ooh, yeah, I know. So they probably wouldn't sound super great together, but they're just like by far my anytime I'm making something, I what does this need? And I look for cellos, French horns, and the piano.
You cannot go wrong. It's very interesting you
so
say
good.
that. That's an interesting answer. I don't know when this is going to be released, in what order. But I think you might have chosen the correct answers. I'll just say that much. But so give me a little insight. What's your thought process there?
So French horns. There is not a more epic instrument that exists, period. Like you get just like some it just sounds like I'm gonna go fight all the baddies now. That's what French horns do for me.
Yeah.
And they just, and I'm actually so pleased because with the recent new digital instrument stuff that I got, the French horns sound just like.
Ooh, what'd you get?
Nice. East West.
Oh,
yeah.
I've heard very good things.
Oh, yeah. So I was using like this garbage thing for like such a seriously long time. Like the majority of I think all of my YouTube videos have used this garbage one up to this point. And so this is actually the first song that I'm going to release with the new patch.
Oh, I'm honored. Thank you.
Yeah, so I'm excited. It does sound, in my opinion, significantly better.
I thought it did. I did notice a jump in quality, I will say. Now, speaking of future projects, is there anything else that you're kind of got in the back of your head for the next time you want to spend 22 hours working on one single project?
Absolutely. Yeah. So I still need to finish up the Mighty Nine.
Okay. So that is the goal, is to get one for everybody.
Oh yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. And I've got a lot of things planned out, but it's a lot of the execution that I'm lacking in.
It happens. I feel you, man. I feel you so much.
Yeah. But I've got like a lot of really fun ideas that I hope people enjoy.
I'm looking forward to it.
Thank you, my man. Yeah. And then I've been wanting to do theme songs for spells for a while now.
Ooh.
Yeah, I think that would be a whole lot of, because it's like in the games that I run and play in, like there's certain times where I'm like, oh yeah, this is the moment when I cast this spell.
Right.
And so like having something to play when or somebody else casts those spells, I'm just like, ooh, that would be spicy.
That'd be awesome. Now, would you have it be short so it would fit in 30-second clip so that, I'm casting the spell, I'm pressing this, or would you want it to be a full orchestral theme?
Ooh, I'll let you know when I get there.
Okay.
I don't know. I was kind of just going with this one. So I started with this song. I had a little bit of a beginning, and then I had that strong finish, and I was like, let's find out what happens in the middle.
Yeah.
And so it just ended up being the length that it is. But I don't know. I will definitely have to think about that for future songs.
Well, do you play music when you're DMing?
Yes, absolutely.
Any tips and tricks on that?
Ooh, YouTube has all of the perfect ambience trance for tracks for anything that you're doing. Just you can literally search like spooky tavern ambiance and it'll show up. Like literally anything that you need is on YouTube. It's fabulous. I have an entire playlist that it just has a bunch of ambience tracks for when I'm DMing. It's wonderful.
Now, I've got one last silly question to wrap things up on, if that's all right.
Nope, no silly questions.
Oh, all right. Well, then it was so nice having you. All right. So if you could pick one member of Vox Machina and one member of the Mighty Nine to form a band with, who would you pick and what genre of music would you play?
I'm a big fan of like not necessarily like sea shanty, but like kind of like that more like Gaelic type of music style.
Yeah.
So we snag Ford.
Oh yeah.
And we'd be like, hey yo, learn how to play this bagpipe or something like that.
Just throw on Orly's back and see what happens.
Yeah, there we go. And then we get, I think we snatch Vax. So we get a little bit of that edgelord in there. Kind of get like that nice like kind of epic stuff in it. And I think that's the play right there.
That's great. What is Vax playing and what are you playing?
Oof. What's the most emo instrument that exists?
It's not the bodhrán, I'll tell you that much.
The dulcimer. Yeah, just
dulcimer.
We got backs on dulcimer, and then I'll play the nose flute. Yeah,
beautiful.
Yeah,
what more could you want?
That's the perfect band right there.
Well, that's a great answer. It's been great talking to you. Thank you so much for joining us.
Hey, thanks for getting this all together and making the time. And yeah, I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be really, really, really fun.
And it has been. Is there anything you would like to plug before we go? YouTube channel, Twitter, anything?
My Twitter could use some love, even though I like have posted like maybe 3 things on there.
I feel you.
I go on there like once a month, and I'm like, yeah, it's still there. All right.
Oh, you truly are a man of my own heart.
Oh man, it's so bad. But yeah, I mean, honestly, I've gotten so much love from this community. I couldn't really ask for anything else. So that's great.
Well, I can't think of a more lovely note to end things on. Thank you again.
Darling, you're too far away. Much nearer would be sweet. Come a little closer, dear, at least within 5 feet. I want you in melee range. I want you close enough to stab. Go on, roll a grapple check if you wanna make a grab. I don't wanna leave, but if I do, then you can have an opportunity to take a slash at me at melee range. I've never been in love before. I don't know what weapon to wield. I'll wave away the fog of war and adjust to this new battlefield. When rolling to hit somebody's heart, I don't know where I ought to start. But if other combat can compare, I need you in my threatened square. I want you in melee range. I want you close enough to stab. Go on, roll a grapple check if you wanna make a grab. I don't wanna leave, but if I do, then you can have an opportunity to take a slash at me at melee range. I'm happy to take it
Hello, we're live. Ginny, thank you so much for joining us. Welcome to the stream.
Thank you for having me.
For those who may not know, Ginny D is a cosplay artist and a singer who creates Critical Role and D&D inspired content on her YouTube channel. I want to know all about it. But first, tell me a little bit about Melee Range.
Okay, so Melee Range is actually, it's pretty funny. I don't write a lot of original music generally. I'm mostly more of a parody and cover artist, and I generally don't feel like I'm very good at writing original music, but I was in the middle of a D&D session, and we were sort of joking about, like, wanting to be in someone's melee range as maybe being like a romantic overture.
Yeah.
Like, haha, wouldn't that be funny? You want someone to come closer to you. And then during that session, my brain was like, that'd be such a cute song. Like, that'd be a really cute song, wouldn't it? And literally the minute we finished the session, I like pulled up the voice recorder on my phone and just started messing around. And within probably 40 minutes, I had written the whole song in pretty much the same format that it's in now. And of course, I don't do my own instrumentals. I work with basically like one of my best friends. He's going to be in my wedding. He's going to be a bridesman. But
awesome. I love that.
Yeah, he does all my instrumental music, so I didn't have to worry about any of that. I just wrote the lyrics and the melody, and then I passed it on to him, and he made it into something significantly better and more polished.
Is he a public figure? Can we give him a quick shout out?
Yeah, well, he's not necessarily a public figure, but if you ever need instrumentation or like audio engineering done, his name is Blake Smith, and I can give you his email address if you want. Just email me if you want to hire him, because he's great, affordable, talented, wonderful human. I
mean, just the fact that he was able to throw together such a nice acoustic version of that song in such a short time, I'm a fan.
He has many talents, but guitar is definitely the primary one. He is like an absolutely insane guitarist. So whenever I have the opportunity to just like strip down a song and just focus on his guitar playing, I feel like it benefits the song. Even though a lot of times with parodies, we don't have the freedom to do that because we're trying to mimic something.
Right, yeah. So you've answered a lot of questions about your cosplay career in one of your YouTube videos. I don't want to touch any of those questions too much, but I want to talk about it if you're comfortable with it.
Sure.
What got you started doing cosplay? What was the first thing?
So I've always been really interested in costumes, and I learned to sew pretty young. So I was into like Halloween costumes and costume parties and stuff like that. Yeah. I worked at the Renaissance Festival, and before I worked there, I also like went every year, and I often made my own costuming for it. So I was already interested in that, just kind of in general, but I didn't really know about the convention and cosplay world at all. I just didn't have those kind of contacts. Like, I think there were a few people in my high school who would have known about cosplay, but I was in with like the theater kids, not the kids that like wore Naruto headbands to school. So I just like didn't know about it. Yeah. And then I started working at the Renaissance Festival, and that was where I really forged a lot of connections with like dyed-in-the-wool nerds, which is not a group that I had been very involved with before that. And all of those people went to a local science fiction and fantasy convention every year called Starfest. A lot of times the guys that played like knights and like gentlemen at fair would be Jedi at Starfest. It was like a pretty funny direct parallel, I feel like. And they took me to my first Starfest, and I like literally walked around seeing all these people in costumes, and my brain was like, I can do this anytime I want. It's
magical.
Like, sign me up. So actually it was the following year at Starfest that I made my first costume for.
What did you make?
I made Codex, Felicia Day's character from the Guild.
I know exactly who you're talking about. Yeah. Felicia Day actually led me to Critical Role.
That's awesome.
Stuff. Yeah.
It was so funny when I realized that she was like, you know, connected to that and sort of essentially gave them their start, because I have been a Felicia Day fan for so long, and knowing that now my biggest fandom is connected to like the fandom that originally got me into cosplay is pretty crazy.
That's an amazing thing. Well, you mentioned a little bit in your Q&A video that you know, as you get these accomplishments, your goals tend to kind of shift, and you know, oh, I've done this, now I need to do the next thing. Without violating any NDAs, can you tell us a little bit about what those kind of bigger goals might be for the next coming months and years?
Yeah, I think I mentioned that in my video, in part because I think the kind of things that I'm achieving now, if you told them to me a year or 2 years ago, I would be so amazed. I would be like, oh my God, I've made it. But you know, by the time you reach the thing, you've already set your sights further and moved the finish line, which can honestly be like very emotionally difficult to deal with, because you never really feel like you're doing it.
you know? But for me right now, I think my long-term goals are like, right now, a lot of my business is sort of like done with my own hands, pretty much by myself, like week to week. And it ends up being very high stress. Like I release a video every single week. So every week I have to decide what I'm going to do. I have to script it. I have to prep anything that I need to prepare for it. I need to like actually set up and film it. I need to edit the whole thing and then go through the whole release process. And then as soon as I'm done, I have to just like brush it all off and start on the next one.
That's
which
nuts.
Draining. Yeah, it's a lot to handle. And then on top of that, I'm doing things like I'm running a Patreon that has monthly rewards that need to be fulfilled month after month after month. I have a merch shop. I have to do all of that packing and mailing and inventory management myself. Like all those things they stack up. So it ends up being every week I feel like I'm barely keeping my head above water and just like constantly trying to not fall behind, which is not an ideal creative space to be in, you know?
You need some interns.
Yeah. And I also find that lately especially, I've been finding that every time I like intentionally make space for myself away from work, like I go on a camping trip, for instance, where I can't work, I just have so many ideas. I just feel like my creative brain immediately starts being like, oh yes, we need this space and now we're thinking. So I think long-term goals in a sort of nebulous sense are definitely to refine like what needs to be me specifically, and what I can outsource or automate or in whatever way makes sense for me, so that I can really channel all of my energy into the things that I think are the most key things that only I can do, you know, like the actual brainstorming and creation and like performance. Those are the things that I enjoy the most and that I think are the most like me. Like who cares who packs my prints in an envelope? Like that doesn't, that doesn't mean anything to anybody. It's so stupid that I'm spending so much time on that. So, and then more sort of like materially speaking, I've wanted to make a web series for so long, and I produced a few web series with not literally my production group that I was with before. Nothing really narrative based, mostly like comedy, sort of recurring themes. But I would really like to produce a narrative web series, and I've been kind of bouncing around ideas and thinking about stuff for over a year now, honestly, and I haven't settled on a thing that really has struck me yet as the right thing, but I feel confident that I will find it eventually, and then it'll be game on.
With your cosplay stuff in particular, I'm curious, you've been doing it for a while now. What is the most difficult or technique that you're the most proud of kind of accomplishing? I've got that under my belt, and now I can use it to make crazy dresses or whatever.
I have like an exciting answer and a not exciting answer. That's a little bit more honest.
Please.
So the exciting answer is that I like designed and developed my own walking centaur body.
I heard about this. Yes.
And that's definitely the like technique wise, I feel like that's kind of my biggest accomplishment, because I wasn't like following anybody else's instructions. I just kind of had to figure that out.
Wait, and really?
Yeah, I mean, I had my dad's help, who has an engineering background, so that was obviously really helpful. But
that's awesome.
In general, yeah, we just kind of looked at videos of horses and we had some ideas and we troubleshoot the ideas, and then we just sort of like tried it and figured it out.
It must have been really fun working with your dad on that too.
Yeah, I love getting to work with my mom sews. She's a quilter, and she taught me how to sew when I was younger. And then my dad, he doesn't like work in engineering or anything, but he just likes building things and has always been like a fix-it person. And so I love getting to work with them on projects, and they love to work with me. Like they're extremely supportive. So I often get to do things where like I'll go build a set in their garage and they'll help me like make paper mache underwater ocean walls or whatever it is, which is awesome.
That's fantastic.
And then the less exciting, the like significantly less sexy answer to that question is that I finally learned how to install invisible zippers to do like a good job.
Ooh,
and that's
okay. Not as sexy, probably very cool though, I imagine, with the mechanics of everything.
It's just so useful. Like there are so many costumes where you don't want to have to see a closure, especially like video game or animated costumes where they don't have closures because they're not real clothes. So useful.
And do you have a favorite or least favorite type of piece to make?
Probably my favorite kind of thing to make is a skirt, because they're so easy. Skirts are so easy. I can put together a circle skirt in like an hour, and they're so cute, and you can spin in them, and you can make them in so many different styles. I just think they're great. And then, I don't know, least favorite thing, I'd probably say pants, because like pants are just always hard. You have to account for so much. Everybody's different in the front and the back.
Yeah. Oh, that's funny. This is the last question. It's very silly.
Okay.
If you could pick one member of Vox Machina and one member of the Mighty Nine to form a band with, who would you pick and what genre would you play?
Oh my gosh. I mean, I feel like there's obvious answers, right?
There
Like,
definitely are. There definitely are. And I will leave that up to you, which you like.
but that's not what I'm going to do. I'm going to go I'm going to go half obvious. I'm going to say that I would want to start like an emo, like dramatic. What is the genre that I'm thinking of? It's like Nightwish without screaming. Like
Oh, good pull.
what's heckin' the other group that I listened to? Oh, like Evanescence. I used to listen to so
Oh,
much.
yeah.
Like an Evanescence style group with Vax and Yasha on the bone harp.
Oh, I love that. Just the aesthetics alone are just choice.
Yeah, I have this like little goth corner of myself that I only let out at like Halloween time, but I was definitely in like an alternative like emo kid group in high school very briefly, and there's still like a part of me that really likes that music and that like dark style.
Yeah. Well,
Despite
I mean, unfortunately, your hair doesn't. Well, I guess no, your hair goes with it now. I feel like you could definitely pull that off.
Vibe.
Yeah. Well, I hope to see more of that because I'm way into that. That's my bread and butter.
Yeah, if I can get in touch with Vax and Yasha, I'll work that out.
Is there anything that you'd like to talk about before we shove off? Anything you want to plug?
I don't know. I don't think so. I guess I'm just like really excited to get to be a part of this because I feel like the Critical Role music community is so cool. Like I've never been involved in, other than I guess Harry Potter and Wizard Rock, which was its own thing. Like people will cover songs from things like The Witcher has a lot of music. I have covered some Witcher songs, and people will cover those. But I feel like it's a completely different thing to write an original song inspired by a fandom. And Critical Role has so many musicians doing that. It's just amazing.
The thing that really, that kicked all of this off was I was talking with a couple other musicians who do this kind of thing, and we were saying how we were talking about some video that had dropped, and we were talking about how there's a welcoming aspect to this community. Someone comes on the scene, and rather than oh that guy's getting views, oh I'm jealous, it's more like friend, come play with us.
When I heard Lily for Faro's first song, I literally was just like, I love her. I want to just like pick her up and hold her close to my chest forever.
Well, we will cut this out because I don't count my chickens. I haven't seen a video, so I don't know what's going to happen. But in case it does, tell me what's going on. I want to know. The Lily collab, yeah.
Oh, yeah. So I actually just sent her the final stuff yesterday, so you should be getting those really soon.
Awesome.
Basically, I just told her, like, I don't have any bright new ideas, but whatever you're doing, if you need help, let me know. I'd be happy to, like, do some Indigo Girls style, like, harmonization over your stuff. So what we ended up doing was I just added 2 harmony lines to her Jester song, Eyes Warm, Eyes Wide, and she added a few instruments to it to kind of, like, beef it up, and it's just, like, an enhanced version.
I am so ready for this. I cannot wait.
I love it a lot. My 2 favorites of her songs are her Jester song and her Caduceus song, Seasons. And I'm honestly glad that we picked the Jester one because they've both made me cry, but like I have a little trouble getting through singing along to Seasons without crying. So it's a good thing we didn't do that one.
Well, actually, normally I make a joke about how I don't know what's coming next because time doesn't matter and everything's crazy right now. But I feel like this is a wonderful segue. First off, thank you so much for joining me. This has been an absolute pleasure. And now let's go listen to that collaboration.
Yay!
Sapphire Princess, Ivory Tower, her prince is her imaginary friend. He's got cool powers, tells a joke she thinks is funny. He thinks it's funny, so it is. And it goes on and on like that for many years. Eyes warm, eyes wide, eyes searching for a button she can push and press and cut and frame the smile it begets upon her wall. Her chaos non-conforming, it's a seed she's planted, rooted in us all. So the sapphire leaves her tower, chasing down a chance at life beyond its walls. She's got cool powers, finds a group of friends that love her. Though she's had to leave her mother, she'll be fine. She can think about the sad another time. Eyes warm, eyes wide, eyes staring at the water. She could be a better daughter. She could stop that train of thought, put on a smile. If she's fooling all her friends, she can keep playing pretend a little while.
Well, there's a world and there's a war, and there's the folks she's fighting for, and there's a sea of glowing jellyfish and dancing lights and painting shit. She's found the man that left her, so she has to find what's left, and she's yet to find a problem that's too big for her imaginary friend. Eyes warm, eyes wide, she's searching for an answer in a world that couldn't stand a chance against the cake and courage in her heart. And she's finding that an answer might have traveled with her in her from the start.
Well, it's been a wild ride. We've heard from so many different musicians. In putting this show together, I feel so fortunate to have been able to talk with all of these talented and especially kind folks. I want to once again thank everyone who took part in or helped to create this show. As a special treat, to take us out, my friend Aidan Chan, along with numerous writers and musicians from the Cantata Pansophical, have put together a special Mighty Nine hymn to send us on our way. Thank you all so much for watching, and if you're able, please consider donating to Amnesty International with our link below. Much love.
Go